EPSULA, educational portal for sustainable cultural diversity in Latin America.
Okay, so we are here with our colleagues, Hilary, Susan, and Jana from the University of Bournemouth. Welcome, first of all, to Maastricht University Language Center, and we would like to give you immediately the floor. And why don't you tell us how did it start the cooperation with the indigenous communities in Ecuador, and how did it develop all throughout the project?
Go on.
We've been working with a university in Ecuador for a few years, and from 2017 onwards, we were making films with the Quijos Nation in Ecuador. And the project started really to have a multidisciplinary team of staff and students working with the Quijos community to document and preserve their language, and also to kind of to make films about things that were pertinent to the community after getting nation status in 2013. So that's how the project started, and we've been working with them since then. Hilary, I don't know if you want to add anything.
Yeah, I just the way we actually got involved was one of our colleagues, Cheryl Martins, who was in my department at Bournemouth University, Communication and Journalism. She was with us, I don't remember how long it was, it doesn't matter, but she left BU to take a job at a university in Ecuador, and while she was there, she started to develop this relationship with the indigenous community, the Quijos Nation, and it was through her that our work with them really started.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then it continued as well. So we had successful student mobility projects as well, and staff mobilities. And then we applied for Erasmus Plus funding as well. And that was in 2020 that we were successful in the Erasmus Plus Key Action 107 bid. And we worked with University de las Americas, and then with Shadow Matters was from University San Francisco de Quito. And we managed to facilitate a lot of staff exchanges through those 3 years, even though in 2020 that was actually pandemic, and we had to do everything online, and we still managed to do online collaborations and discussions. There were lots of lectures back and forth with lots of partners involved as well. But then in 2021, 2022, we managed to facilitate staff exchanges. We had staff coming to Bournemouth, staff going to Ecuador as well, and student mobilities as well. So we had students going, undergraduate students, wasn't it? Who participated in the project in Ecuador, and they actually managed to go into the Amazon as well. And then staff were there as well, filming in Quijos actually, the project with the indigenous communities as well. So the Erasmus Plus project, the funding enabled the full collaboration, exchanges. I think without that we wouldn't be able to travel as often.
No, we wouldn't have had the scope to take students from so many different disciplines with us as well. So, for example, the latest trip we took, which was last summer in 2023, we were able to bring 2 video games students with us, and they made this amazing prototype video game that was meant to teach children Chilipano words. Chilipano is the traditional language of the Quijos. Through a game that was sort of jungle themed. We had to try and capture different types of animals, and it was a really great, engaging educational tool. It was such good quality as well for how little time they had. It was amazing.
I mean, I think what was important was that these outputs that were co-created between Quijos and the multidisciplinary team. What was important was that these could be put online in social media situations, so that they could be spread amongst the community, but also far beyond the community. And we have found out that since we've been working there, that many more families are identifying as key hosts. So these were a kind of communication tool. So we have over the years actually produced quite a lot of these, and we're really happy to kind of work with you to kind of disseminate this work. So it's been really a gift for us to kind of collaborate with you on that.
Thank you very much. It's an honor for us to collaborate with you. And actually, I would like to ask about the issues that are part of your goals that you would like to target when you were in the first stage of, let's say, formulating your project goals. What was your main aim from the content part of the perspectives that you wanted to focus on and that you wanted to pay attention to?
Those were actually, that's a really important question.
So important.
those were identified right at the beginning of the project. So if you can imagine, these are like 2-week projects, and we had 3 of them, so 3 times 3 collaborations, 2-week collaborations. So we had to identify what the key host wanted to say right at the beginning. And so we had to have ice break sessions, we had to have key hosts where community members were giving us presentations on the things that are important to them. And so that it wasn't our story we were telling, it was definitely a story that was pertinent. So that was established right at the beginning. And then storyboards and scripts were developed. And then we went out into the Amazon to film. So actually establishing what the goals were was something that happened right at the beginning.
Yeah.
Very often it happened way before the project started as well.
But ultimately, so the content of our outputs and the aims and objectives related to the outputs have always been driven by the key host, not by us. It's always been really important for us that we are responding to what they want and they need. So we would find that out and then talk about how we were going to collaborate and make that happen.
Certainly last year, the work happened before we went out there. So we've kind of refined our methodology, I would say. We did have a methodology, but we've kind of refined that over the 3 years of working with them. So last year we put a lot of work in place before we went out there. We had some of the main key host elders working with us and the students beforehand to say, look, this is what we're going to look at. These are the issues that are pertinent to us. This is what we want to focus on. And so a lot of the groundwork was done before we went out there and made the actual films. So we're at this stage at the moment where we have a film that we're still editing. And it's a film that's been written and directed by Gisela Jumbo, who is a key host elder. She's a dancer, artist, director. And this film is, we could say, has been fully directed, fully scripted by the key host community and acted as well. So lots of actors, performers were involved in making this film. So this is an unfinished film at the moment, but we're hoping to get that finished pretty soon.
And may I ask, I would like to know whether you are also trying to have some feedback from the community based on some agreement. For instance, we are going to show what we've done, and you are going to provide or tell us what you think about that, or whether there is another way of how getting the feedback from them.
Can I answer that? I think this is an ongoing process because we've got to know the community over the years since we've started working there in 2017. It's an ongoing process, I would say. So people who worked with us in 2017 are still working with us now and improving, if you like, the kind of filmmaking process. But in terms of presenting the films, we haven't presented these in any kind of larger context than other than online. So this is a kind of new opportunity actually. So the exhibition here is really important. And actually from that, we're hoping we will get feedback from the community. So we will send information about the exhibition and films of the work in situ and get feedback. So yeah, it's been it's social media campaign really before now. But I would say we're at that situation where we want to expand it, but only obviously under the guidance of the KIHOS, and whichever way that we can help them do that. Yeah.
Yeah, this is really great. This is really great. I would also like to ask whether you have addressed any other community or why it was particularly Quijos. What was the reason to choose this community in Ecuador? I understand that there is the contact with the university partners that you have in Quito, the two universities that you collaborate with. How's that?
I think we initially did start working with the key host because of our colleague Cheryl Martins and the relationship that she built with them. But it's not like, we just worked with them and it was done. It was a sort of a developing relationship, and so it sort of felt natural for us to work with them again, and then a third time. So it's just sort of an ongoing developing thing, and we haven't really looked elsewhere, have we?
I mean,
Per se.
I think the one thing we didn't want to do was go in and parachute in.
Yeah.
It's the very nature of these projects.
Yeah.
You come in and parachute in, and then you leave, and so that's why this kind of ongoing dialogue has, kept us working with KIHOS. Because it feels important as well.
It does.
It feels important for their ideas and, if you like, their concerns and the things that are important to them to be communicated.
And I think it's nice for us to be working with them on a continuous basis as well, because as their needs and priorities shift, we can adapt to those and create outputs that address what they wanted at a particular time.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So sometimes it's interesting in that one, talking about games, for instance, we have had this kind of dialogue about, okay, how do we involve children in understanding Shilipano or being interested in speaking Shilipano? Games, we thought, how do we get children involved with that? So animation was one way, so let's introduce animation into these films, and we can show them to children. We won't show them, but obviously they'll be shown through social media, and games was another one. So it's kind of like, as Hilary says, kind of responding to specific priorities, and in some of the films that you have in the show, there is a film which is The Jungle Speaks to You in Shilipano, where it is about, how do you pass down these languages and how do you pass down these kind of important cultural concerns, and it comes through families, and young people kind of maybe don't want to learn Shilipano or some of the cultural kind of traditions, if you like. So we kind of try and respond to that and think, what could we help? How could we help in doing that?
That's very true what you say. Actually, the exhibition you mentioned, it's here in Brno in the museum, Moravian Regional Museum, Anthropos in Pisarki, and visitors can see one of these movies directly there. Well, several movies that you were so kind and agreed with showing them within the exhibition. We are really grateful for that, and it is precisely in this particular movie that you mentioned, La Selva te habla en Shilipano, where one lady mentions that young people go to the city and they come back and they start hating the food and hating the language, and that she is not willing to accept it, and that the only way how to change it is through young people. And that's nice then to see the views that are at the end of the video, where young people have this camp. I would like to ask about the camp, which is mentioned there, where you know which part I mean, where the faces of the participants are changing and everyone says something in Shilipano. I would like to ask about the camp, whether you do you know anything about the camp that was organized for these people?
Yeah, well, that was one of the summer schools.
Yeah.
Actually.
Okay.
So that summer school, that included students, young people from the Quixos community, elders from the Quixos community. So that was the camp, actually.
Okay.
Is that the one that you're referring to?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it was like a summer school, a summer camp that everybody was involved in. And actually, during that time, we did quite a lot of traditional communal activities. So getting together as a community at 3 o'clock in the morning and drinking tea and things like that. So lots of and lots of really very important cultural communal gatherings, as it were. So that was the camp that they were talking about.
I would be interested in asking is that because here, I guess, as you know, we have been using some of the materials that you shared with us and some of the materials that our project created for workshops and activities with students from schools, not just at the university level, but at different levels throughout the educational system. So I wanted to ask, what was the impact that you generated in the UK? In the sense that, for example, from our experience, we were discussing this not so long ago, what we didn't expect and surprised us a lot was that the students, even the younger ones, sometimes like you show them one of the videos or you read them one of the texts that we have from one of the transcriptions, right? And even from start a short information package, we can say, they really managed to reflect a lot on the culture proposed, whatever community it is that we try to propose. It always amazed us how easily the students got interested into the topic, into the habits of that specific communities, their clothes, what are they doing in a specific video, and everything related to their culture, right? So I wanted to ask if you had similar experience in the UK, or if you have already organized something like this, or maybe if it was in the plan.
We haven't actually. I mean, we haven't actually done that. We have shown the films around about Bournemouth University. So we have shown them in our local gallery set up at the university.
And we presented, don't forget, at a conference hosted at Bournemouth University as part of the eVoices project about sort of communities in the global south. So we presented our work there. I have yet to use outputs and experience in my teaching, but I'm constantly trying to think of ways to do it. I don't know.
Yeah, I've used it in my teaching actually, because I work on a unit called non-fiction animation. Non-fiction animation has a lot of kind of ethical things that you have to think about, right? So, it usually involves like some kind of documentary animation and thinking about the voice and who the author of the voice is. So I've used it in my teaching, which is great, but I suppose what I was really excited about today, seeing you working, was you're working with young people who are not, at university yet. They're in the school system. So that, for me, I find really exciting.
That was a surprise. It was fantastic.
But there's also the student mobility as well, and the students who participated in all those summer schools, and I think it had a huge impact on their kind of perception.
Because the fact is that they are like topics that are not so much like talked about. They're not so present, right, in the daily life, let's say, and that is what really surprised, because when we started thinking about using specifically in that case was the EPSULA materials, and then we also added yours, like of course we discussed whether it would be like not enough for the students, or like even like with a few colleagues we had this talk about, but maybe like this, there is not enough context for the student, and I think that is really one of the strong points of this type of projects, right? That they really do bring a different cultural context for like being known and shared, and really being appreciated, even here where we don't usually get that much information, that much like media publications, anything, let's say, about the indigenous realities.
And every student had to do like a reflective piece, so they had to write down their kind of observations, their perceptions, and how it's going to impact them in their future as well. And some students, I think, focused as well their dissertations.
Yeah, I mean, we had one student who I was chatting to you about earlier. Students don't know what to expect when they go out there, and yes, we can prepare and all the rest of it, but actually working with a group of people who live and survive there, and who want to share, their skills and practices, it changes people, and our students come back and they are changed. And we had one student who came back and kept a collaboration up with one of the KIHOS members, and did her dissertation and her final animation. So I come from the animation department, so my students make animations, and my student made a final animation that was a collaboration with one of the KIHOS members on how she became a midwife. So it was a kind of documentary animation that she made, which was a lovely way of visualizing things that can't be visualized, that you can't film. So she was able to animate the spirits of the rainforest, which she wouldn't have been able to film. So she was able to make this really kind of interesting piece of animation, which I will show you. So yeah, that was, our students really kind of, it does change the way they think about the world. But I think it would be very interesting to think about doing what you're doing as well, and go beyond undergraduate and postgraduate students into school students. Very interesting. It's a very visual thing, isn't it? These films are visual. They're showing skills, and they're showing processes and methods, and I think I think people respond to that really well.
We had anthropology staff as well traveling with us this time, so we kind of expanded the subject areas as well, as we mentioned. And it's really important to have anthropologists as well, and Cheryl obviously is as well, who really kind of know in depth the subject area, and it supports the project from that point of view as well. So the future is to look at more subject areas as well. We were talking as well with the community about tourism as well, sustainable tourism. So looking at expansion in that area, supporting them to build community and tourism kind of establishment, so we can actually stay there as well. Exactly in that community, not staying in hotels or anywhere closer, but be immersed in that culture. And then other subject areas as well. Talking about documentary. And
Absolutely. And again, KIHOS led. I think is the most important thing. That's what has been the driving force with this, especially with our Cheryl Martins, who's been working with the KIHOS for many, many years now.
This is great.
It's KIHOS led is the most important aspect of this.
So that's what we share. We also give our communities or our partners to provide the communities, the collaborating communities, with facilities so that they can present themselves and self-present themselves in a way that they wish to be perceived and to be known outside their cultural areas. So this is great.
Okay, so maybe to close, let's say, this short interview, I'm thinking of a question that we are also proposing as the topic for several of the interviews we have been doing in the context of the EPSULA project. So we always like to ask what is it that impacted you personally the most from the culture and the way of living of the indigenous community with which you were working, the Quijos? What do you think is the thing that will remain with you for the rest of your life, aside from the project, let's say?
For me, it's the relationships that we've built with people like Gisela and Domingo. But I think that the one thing that sort of has stayed with me throughout is sort of the reverence and connection that the Quijos have with their environment, and sort of the sacredness of it. And I think that for a lot of us who grew up in towns and cities, we just don't have that. So that's something that I found very profound, and it's always stuck with me. Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah, I would say the sense of community really struck me, and there was an incredible generosity, and I'm sure that is maybe even a cliche, I don't know, but certainly there was an incredible generosity and sense of community. And whilst I'm not a member of the community, I felt very, very welcome. But, and again, as Hilary says, this absolute understanding of how the world works and how the environment works and how everything is interconnected and how the past is part of the present, is part of the future. There's a belief system called the cosmovision, which I learned about. And, I suppose you can see some of the cosmovision in other kind of spiritual ideas as well. But this idea that, everything from the past affects the present, affects the future, I found incredibly profound. And that will really, really stay with me. A very kind of wise kind of attitude towards the planet and the earth, I think.
Yes, I wasn't able to travel to Ecuador, but through facilitating the project on the kind of Erasmus Plus side, from the moment that I actually saw the pictures when I started at the Bournemouth University, I deal with hundreds of projects with loads of different countries, and I could see there is an impact. There is an impact on the students, there's an impact on the staff, and that, you talked about this is a profound project that really is changing minds and hearts of people who are participating in it. So that kind of meaning driven me to do more and bring more funds to be able to actually facilitate it. So, and generally in my life, I always somehow meet people who travel to Ecuador and so on. So there is some sort of connection. My friend is currently in Ecuador, actually, as we speak. So, there must be some sort of a connection with that community and with the way how they live. And I think we should learn from each other as much as possible. That's why I work in the international environment, and I think we should do more of these projects to bring that knowledge and on surface.
Okay, so thank you very much.
Thank you for having
Yeah,
us.
inviting us. Yeah.